Hi there, thank you so much for staying on The Baby Doctor with me, Bernice Abu-Baidoo Lansah. Today, we are talking about vaccination in children, and I've got Ikia Nyama with me. She is a nurse midwife at LMS Health, and she will be taking us through everything vaccination, the most important points you need to know. Hello, Ikia, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
I've heard of a midwife, I've heard of a nurse. I've not heard of a nurse midwife. Is there any specialty to that?
Okay, so I'm a public health nurse and then a midwife as well.
All right. Okay, those who like books, so that's a nurse midwife. If you're inspired, you can be like Ikia. Now, Ikia, vaccinations are very important for babies and children. But why is it so? Why must we subject cute little babies? And some of them are so like fragile, and then you have to prick them, and it's honestly, a lot of women feel the pain on behalf of their babies. If you watch their faces, they are like that, but they're not the ones taking the injection though. But why is it important for us to vaccinate children?
Okay, so vaccination, by way of definition, is a substance introduced into the body to elicit immunity. So it is important because it goes into the future.
Okay.
Before the disease occurs, you are given a protection, so you don't even get the disease at all.
Okay.
That is why vaccinations are very, very important. There are some that are even given in pregnancy. Tetanus, diphtheria is a vaccine that is given whilst the mother is pregnant. And the mother passes some level of immunity to the baby until baby is born and gets to grow to a certain stage that he or she takes the vaccine by him or herself. And so pretty much vaccinations are the best and safest if we are looking at, and prevention has always been the best way.
But can't we wait for them to grow a little older?
Strangely, as you grow, you are not able to tolerate pain as you are young. And so most of the vaccines or the pain that they get to experience or exhibit, few adults can take it.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
That is why
that's news to me.
Yes, that's why we do circumcision in babies. We subject them to all those because at that time they're able to take in more pain than as they grow.
Wow.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay, but some babies are left with, I don't want to call them side effects. I don't know how you would term them. One common one is a fever, right? So you've told us that the vaccines are introduced into our bodies to help us fight something that may come up in the future. But how does it work? And why do they leave babies with those kind of high temperatures?
So vaccines are made, and there are two different forms of vaccine. We have the live attenuated, where it's just the weakened form of the virus or the organism that has been used to manufacture the vaccine. And then we have the dead attenuated, where it's a killed form of the organism that has been used to manufacture the vaccine. Now with the live ones, they offer more stronger immunity, and then it lasts longer. Okay. Unlike the weakened ones. And with the weakened ones, you will need quite a multiple of doses to get the desired immunity that we want. When a vaccine is introduced into your system, first of all, it starts with a needle prick. And there are some people that their system is such that they can't take it. Once a prick goes, yes. And then with some babies, on the part of the ones doing the immunization, if you land yourself in a wrong site, you can injure the child. However, when the antigen is introduced into you, it has to fight something in your system to come up with a desired immunity. And so whatever reaction your body goes through to produce the immunity usually leaves them with a fever, or mostly what we call the adverse events following immunization. And as I said, it is expected, but with just pain medications, they are able to overcome it. And
now, there's something interesting that I encountered. And, you know, when a child is born, there's the one that is offered almost immediately. And then over the period up until they're about 2 years, they are given different vaccines. Is it possible for a child to be exposed to a certain virus before the due period of taking that vaccination? So say chicken pox, for example, is it possible that the child will contract the chicken pox before the scheduled time for taking that vaccine?
Obviously, it's yes, because and even you can still vaccinate a child and the child will still get the disease later.
Okay.
Yes, that's also possible. And so that's why we have outbreaks of diseases. When we have an outbreak on our hands, babies who are not yet due, if you are scheduled for 9 months to take measles, rubella vaccine or yellow fever, and there's an outbreak on our hands, 6 months old child, when gets exposed, can suffer the disease. But then when you look at the schedule that has been laid down, that child is not due to take the vaccine. So usually when there's an outbreak like that, those children will be immunized. Okay. We won't wait because there's an outbreak on our hands.
So those who are exposed, so maybe say in a certain community, if you realize that maybe there's a measles outbreak, you would want to vaccinate the children
it's
there?
Not just those that are exposed. Usually measles, SIAs are nationwide exercises that we do when, like polio, for instance. Even if we record 1 or 2 cases, we term it as an outbreak, and then it calls for like a reinforcement or a booster doses so that we can get to cover quite a number of people. We call it herd immunity. We give a larger group a certain level of immunity. And as I said, those that have been vaccinated can get the disease
eventually
later.
Why is that?
So there's what we call seroconversion, where when you introduce the vaccine to the child, the system is unable to produce the desired immunity.
Okay.
When it happens like that, the baby is still at risk, and so many factors can come in place. Also, there are some medical conditions that may make us delay in immunizing this child. Let's say a mother has HIV and delivers. Because we assume child has been exposed, BCG is to be delayed.
Okay.
Because when you introduce it and the child got the virus in utero, the child can actually develop the tuberculosis.
Okay.
Yes. And so you want to look at so many things before you do vaccinations in general. Yes.
And that's why here in Ghana we have the booklet, right?
We have the booklet, and then so that's why we've combined the mother's antenatal records with the immunizing, because it helps you to understand or know the medical history of the mother and to know what to do for the child. And in Ghana, at birth, we're doing BCG. It's a very long name. So the BCG is actually someone's name. Okay. Because usually those that invent the vaccines, we name the vaccines after them. Okay. So Bacillus, Calmette, Guarin, it's a very long name. That we have BCG, which is against tuberculosis. And then we have the oral polio vaccine. And we do the O. The child takes 4, which is recorded. But usually there are national exercises that comes to add because they are mostly the weakened form. So you need more boosters. So we do the oral polio vaccine, the O. And so the ideal situation is that we have to give hepatitis B to every baby. Now, when a woman is hepatitis B positive and delivers, because we say baby has been exposed, there's what we call hepatitis B immunoglobulin. In addition to the hepatitis B vaccine, that should be given to the baby to protect the child from developing the disease. Okay, so
the general hepatitis B vaccine is administered,
and then the immunoglobulin that is the ideal thing. That is the right thing to do for a Hep B positive mother who delivers. But they are expensive, and so most people do not even do it. They just do the vaccine, leaving the immunoglobulin. And if the child is exposed, later the child can develop the disease. But at LMS, per our protocol, every baby gets the Hep B vaccine, because when a baby is born, a Hep B positive staph can actually infect your baby.
Okay.
And so we want to tread cautiously. When you deliver in America, in the Europe, or anywhere, Hep B is the first vaccine given to every baby.
Okay.
Yes. And in our book, it is there.
I see it.
So we do it. But then it hasn't been introduced as part of the EPI with the Ghana Health Service yet. So, but then I know facilities that, but LMS is our protocol, so we do it in addition to your BCG and your oral polio vaccine.
I'm grateful that you share this information, and it's important because I remember when there was a shortage of vaccines and people were wondering where to access vaccines. They were willing to pay for it because we know with the Ghana Health Service, those are free. And there were people who said, look, I can pay for, I don't want my child to be exposed, especially to polio, because that leaves lifelong lasting effects on the children. And so thank you for notifying us about LMS provision of, but apart from the Hep B, do you offer other vaccines as well?
There are lots of vaccines we do. So we go through the routine EPI, which is the expanded program on immunization by Ghana Health Service. So at 6 weeks, a child gets the 5-in-1 vaccine, that is diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus, hepatitis B, and then hemophilus influenza type B. All these vaccines are put together in one shot, and usually that's what makes them run temperature.
Okay.
Because I asked the mother, when you were pregnant, did you take tetanus injection? She said, how was it? She said, my hand was hurting. So I'm like, okay, so take a mental picture with other 4 drugs having been added to tetanus B. That's why they get the temperature. So then they understand, and everything has to do with communication. Madam, in the I'm coming to give your child. We expect let the woman understand why, because 5 drugs being put together, obviously there will be some reaction, and then we give the pneumococcal vaccine against pneumonia in children, so Prevnar 13 or the pneumococcal conjugate, and then we drop the oral polio 1, then Rotarix, which is against the rotavirus. It's also an oral vaccine that we do. So at 6 weeks, we repeat it at 10 weeks. And then at 14 weeks, we will do all this and still add the IPV, which is the injection form of the polio, to it.
Okay.
Per the Ghana Health Service schedule, you are to, baby is not going to take any vaccine until 6 months, and then they take vitamin A supplements.
Yeah.
At 6 months, we do influenza. Mind you, we explain and it's optional.
Okay.
Because some deliver outside, like in the US, they come and they want to continue the American schedule.
Okay.
So we stock all these vaccines so that, because they are spending, let's say, a month or 2 and they want to go back. So they don't want to start hours that they cannot complete.
Right.
And so we get all this. And then 9 months, you take your measles rubella vaccine. In some countries, they do measles, mumps, and rubella. But our schedule is measles, rubella, and then you take your yellow fever vaccine.
We don't do mumps. The children get it a lot. In fact, I remember there was a time a pediatrician told me, I have an outbreak on my hands because almost all the children are coming with swelling cheeks and jawlines. So I'm very grateful that you've mentioned it. But you know, with every vaccine, you mention a timeline. If somebody is watching us today and thinks that, oh, I want to give my child the mumps because I didn't get it in the public health facility, but maybe that child has gone beyond the age that you mentioned, is it possible for them to access it as well?
Obviously, even adults are taking it.
Okay.
For travel and other school, once they're traveling from like tropics or areas that are prone, they will recommend or they will require that you are vaccinated before you come. And so 2 years upwards, that is when I would say that with the Ghana Health Service structure, they would have completed. And so these additional ones come to add on. Okay. And though we start at 1 year, 18 months, they will still take a second dose of the measles rubella and then meningitis A. But then, mind you, there are other strains of the meningitis. And so 2 years, we do the meningitis that has all the other strains, ACY. And 1 year, we add chickenpox. We have vaccine for cholera. We have, we have vaccines for hepatitis A, which is more of a, through a foodborne, contaminated food or water, because they've done the B in the 5-in-1. So we do the A, and then the they start school and then they are getting running flu. all the time. So we do 6 months flu vaccination till they are 2. So by the time your child is going to school, your child has a certain level of immunity. And then 18 months we still do our measles, rubella, and then our meningitis A, and continue with every other one that they ask.
I'm sure some mothers are saying, oh, where have you been? I've been looking for you. The cold, the flu, the kids go to school and the whole house is down because they bring us terrible coughs and colds. So at the end of the show, I'll be telling you how to get in touch with Nanekia and her team at Elima so that you can get further detailed, more individual, care based on your situation. So we don't expect mothers to miss appointments when it comes to vaccinations, but it happens sometimes, Something may come to distract them one way or the other. What is the first thing to do when you realize you've missed your appointment?
You don't have to wait. Come. What happens with vaccination is that there are schedules. Sometimes when you delay or when the gap is widened, we do not get the desired immunity that we want to elicit. And so in some cases, like that, seasonal diphtheria, for instance, and I'm very much particular about that because the first dose we give to a pregnant woman gives no protection.
Okay.
So until you take your second dose, it goes to act on the first one to offer a certain amount of immunity. So if you just take one and you don't come again, cost 90.
That's a tetanus, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, when the gap widens, in some cases, in some of the vaccines, I will let you start all over. Yes. Chickenpox is 2 doses, maximum between 6 to 8 weeks. You should take your second dose.
Okay.
You are coming after like 3 months, like 20 weeks, or what will happen to the first one? Because the second one goes to act on it to give you the desired immunity. And so if you widen the gap, I'm tempted to start all over.
Okay.
However, there's still room that we make.
Right.
So at least each vaccine, the schedule should not be, or the next doses should not be more than less than 1 month.
Okay.
Meaning within a month when you miss
you
can't come. Yes.
Right.
So
right.
you don't have an excuse at all.
You've partly answered the question on what we can do due to unavailability, and facilities like yours stock up, and so.
In fact, we never ran short of vaccines.
Okay.
Even when Ghana, we always had vaccines.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So we get people flying from Kumasi to come and take vaccine and going back.
It's important.
Yes.
It's important, especially for the polio. And I had mothers who came, they were desperate, you know, saying that, hey, polio, dear Miss Ro, I'm scared of polio. Every other thing, yes, but polio, I don't want my child to even start exhibiting any signs of it. So thank you for making that available. So you've just highlighted the importance of vaccines to us and how over the years they've proven to be effective in public health management. But there are some people who still say no. Some religious groupings, for example, say we don't accept vaccines, or they do not subscribe to it because there are a lot of theories thrown out there, a lot of information on the internet, people sharing things they don't even understand. So today, if somebody is watching us who is skeptical about vaccines or who says that, oh, you people, it's just another way to turn us all into something else, you know, we don't trust the world of science and it's a grand scheme, something new world order, you know, all the theories they throw around, what will your message be to them?
So someone was saying this, and I was asking the person that we pray, yet we don't believe in our prayers. COVID came and we were praying, God, give us a cure. God, give us a solution. Now we develop vaccines, and you're saying, yay, they want to kill us. And people were dying from the disease, though they were being managed in the hospitals. So I always say that prevention has always been the best compared to curative. When we are exposed to the disease, you can't tell who will survive it and who will not. Mind you, when a child is less than 18 years, the child belongs to the government. And so when push comes to shove, there are some ways that the government intervenes, because religion shouldn't stop a child from being vaccinated. You as an adult can take that decision. But once the child is under 18 years, it is mandatory.
Okay.
So it got to a time, that's how come all the restrictions with COVID and other, because until you put in some force, you won't get it. Mind you, I protect my child by vaccinating. Your child is not protected, and then your child gets exposed and brings it to school. My child will be exposed too. And before my child's system will, I have this immunity in me already, my child would have exhibited a very mild form of it before. And we don't want that to happen at all. And I keep telling people that since the introduction of oral polio, how many times do we see babies with polio? If it wasn't that effective, why wouldn't we have stopped doing it till now? I mean, measles, when mothers call in there, Auntie Care, my baby has some rash and I think it's measles. I said, if it's measles, you wouldn't be sitting on your phone telling me this, because measles are deadly disease. I mean, it's a deadly disease. And few babies were surviving from measles infection. So if it is measles as you are thinking, then you wouldn't be holding your baby, being reluctant, calling me that, oh, should I come to, or should I wait? No. Vaccines have proven to be very effective. And I mean, we started with 6 childhood killer diseases. We're doing more than 13 now, because the others we found out that we can still prevent them. And we are good at preventing. And I must commend the Ghana Health Service, because government of Ghana has done prevention, we've done well compared to other countries. I mean, I was talking to one doctor, and then he's like, when COVID came, doctors now had to be trained to give the vaccine.
Because they're not used to it. We had a system in place already.
But Ghana, we just jumped on because vaccinations, we are good at it. We are good at it because we don't have much. And so we would want to prevent it than having the crisis on our hands. Because we may not have the system to manage the cases. And so we always will push for, give me any day and I'll choose prevention over curative, because I may not be able to survive it.
Ikea, there's a lot more to talk about, but we'll take a breather here, go sip on some water. When we come back, we'll be finding out more on what kind of vaccines your child should be taking after the first 2 years, which is the regular period where the Ghana Health Service is giving you mandatory vaccines. The key word here is mandatory. You heard it from the public health person, not me. And also we'll be breaking some myths. We'll be doing a truth or myth exercise. You don't want to miss that. Do stay with us. Thank you for staying on The Baby Doctor with me, Bernice Abu-Baidoo Lansah. Today I've got Ikea Nyama with me. She is a nurse midwife at Elimas Health, and we've been talking about vaccination in children. So, Ikea, just before we took that breather, we were talking about different forms of vaccines, how people can access, what to do if you miss an appointment and all that. But what should I be looking at as a mother beyond the 2 years? What are the other important vaccines that I must, note down to ensure that my child has them even as they grow and develop?
So children between 9 to 14 years in America are being given vaccine, the Gardasil vaccine, which is against HPV, the human papilloma virus. That causes cervical cancer, like a strain of it, type 16 and type 18. It causes about 70 to 75% of the cervical cancer cases. Now, when we build this immunity, child is going to grow, and before they become sexually active, once they come in contact even with the virus, they are not going to get, because they have the immunity in them.
Right.
We don't have it here. We have it at Elimas though, but then parents will still have to ask for it, and then mostly we're doing it for adults who have screened and are negative, and they want to give it to them before they are exposed to the virus. Most of the other vaccines, usually from 12 months till the child is about 2.5, or the additional ones, we would have done. And so once the child starts school, we don't have any cause to worry.
Okay.
until they're maybe traveling outside, and then there's a particular or certain type of additional vaccines that the country may require. All that is needed, all that is most predominant, or the disease that are predominant, like chickenpox, where we can have outbreak, like people getting chickenpox. We try to take care of it whilst they are under 2 years. And so once the child is 2 years upwards, we don't have much to worry about until they are about 9. Now, with a child welfare clinic, or weighing, as we keep saying, weighing is just an aspect of the clinic. Okay. So we are actually going for a child welfare clinic, because within the clinic, growth is being monitored. That is the weight. We are checking the height. We are doing the vaccination. We are doing counseling. All these things comes together as a clinic. So if you say, I'm going for weighing, it's as if once your child is weighed, that's it, you're allowed to go home.
No, but that's what happens in most public places. Because now you're saying checking height. I don't know. I've always wanted to ask. And I don't know if you all can relate. The weight is checked though, but the height, even at birth, is left blank.
Oh no, the height. So we usually check full length, head circumference. At birth, we do it. Yes, we do it.
I have to go and check again.
Oh, please check. That's one day I know. That's one day as a midwife and haven't been in the labor order. We check the chest circumference, the head circumference.
That,
and
yes.
full length. That one, yeah. Oh, I can buy from. Please,
I'll bring you my book.
Yes.
In fact, my books.
So if you come and it's in it.
Oh, I owe you lunch.
So we check, and then with the weight, for instance, ideally we are saying that by the time the child is 1 year, the child should gain about 3 times the birth weight. And so we monitor the growth pace, and then we draw it on a graph to see how the pace is going, because the other lines we don't want the child to be on it. Every 6 months, till your child is 5 years, your child needs to take vitamin A supplements.
A?
Yes. And
every 6 months?
Every 6 months.
And so, is that given at public health facilities as well?
Yes, it's in the book. That red capsule. So at 6 months, we give the blue capsule. And then from 1 year upwards, we give the red capsule. So I encourage my mothers that, okay, it's oral. It's just a drop. So even if you can't bring the child, you come with a book. I put it in a drug envelope. I record the date. And then when they pick their children from school out, they just drop it. And they get to, so I monitor my clients to make sure.
Why is the vitamin A important?
Oh, it corrects any issue on the eye. It's a retinol. And we say that what the child is eating, the vitamin A that they need may not be enough. So this comes as a supplement. Yes. Because you know they are eating pattern at that time. They don't like certain fruits and other things. So at least this will come. And it is like the 200,000 IU, very strong to be in the child system for about 6 months until a new dose is given. So you don't say, okay, they usually say, I'm done with taking all my injections. So,
so that's it. Yeah.
No. Please. So it means in a year you'll be going twice.
Okay.
Just
so the child is 5
years.
years. Okay.
And most of my mothers, they are very religious because I'm so much on them. And some of them, I even set reminders. I go that extreme for them. And so they're like, hey, if I don't go and take it, I'm like, don't call me when there's an emergency. So do this as a condition, and then I'll also do this for you. Yes.
Okay. I think it's because of the pressure, because, I mean, you're right. Most mothers would relax after all the injections, immunizations are done, and you feel like, okay, no, those are the serious ones. As for the other ones. And even checking the weight of the child, you know, a lot of them stop at about 2.5 years. They don't check the weight of the child again.
Just after 18 months, once they are done with the government vaccination, because mostly the vaccinations, the injections, it ends at 18 months. Now they are done, because until we introduce even with the malaria vaccine, it still ends at 18 months, because it starts 6 months, 7 months, 9 months, and then the last one is at 8. Once they are done, they are done. Like the clinic has ended. Time no day. It's either we are starting for another baby. If the mother is pregnant,
I know, right? The older one is,
you get it.
To stand aside.
So, but then what we are saying is that, and I'm advocating for it, that every 6 months, at least, your child needs the vitamin A. They feel so unwell, children, and then they lose weight to gain height.
Okay.
Then they eat or fill up And then, so you still want the height to be measured. So when you come, we have our height chart, and then we do it too, so that we plot it to see, as the pace that the child is going, is it correlating with the age? Because at some point, you're not much concerned about the weight of the child. You're much concerned about the total well-being of the child, the activity of the child. Is it corresponding with the age of the child? Because if you want your child to be plumpy, or how they put it, chubby, your child can be chubby and wouldn't be hearing.
Okay.
So when you come, we do all these assessments.
So there's child welfare.
Exactly. So when there's a sound and the child is not turning towards that direction at a certain age, it gives us a concern. And it's not just about the vaccination, because we are doing a total welfare of so the developmental milestone of the child. In the book, you see that at a point the child is sitting, the child is crawling, the child is walking, and the child is running. At the age, is the child doing that activity? And these are basic that you don't really need specialists, because we may all not find that opportunity. So we should expect that when we go to weigh in, as we term it, and per the age of my child, the person attending to me, the public health assistant or a nurse or a midwife or whoever it is, should at least have the time to ask me those quick questions. Yes. Is the child walking? Is the child talking? Is the child hearing when they hear a sound? But we don't get that. That's the ideal situation. But sometimes, you know, the workload, I mean, the overwhelming numbers of mothers. And these same mothers don't have time. There's so much now to go to the market. I mean, I worked in a public facility for like 14 years. And so I have experience of every area until I still did field epidemiology at master's, and then I still ventured into outbreak investigations, because then it took me from the clinical setting more to the field, to understand how disease outbreaks and how our health-seeking behaviors works, because you are even asking questions and they don't have the time because there's so much in a hurry to go and sell in the market or something. So it boils down to it. And then, you know how many people have even completed school and are staying at home unemployed. I mean, if those numbers were to add on, it would ease more of the pressures, and then we can get to answer some of the questions. But we're so overwhelmed. I can understand. And you are conducting the child welfare clinic under some tree somewhere. The rains are coming. You are a whole lot. And so it doesn't allow them to really give the things. Yes, but they really want to do it. Because when they get a chance, they do it. I think the other thing is, on the flip side, as a mother, maybe you should express some concern, and beyond taking the injection, ask the nurse or the midwife or whoever it is, a community nurse, oh, what should I expect to be seeing in my child? Maybe just a quick chat. And here again, I'll share a story of a woman who went for weighing and was told by one nurse that, we've checked the weight, you can go. And she's like, no, you're supposed to give an injection. She said, the nurse says no. But the mother said, I want to cross-check. And she says, my child is at this age. And in the book, he's supposed to take an injection. And so sometimes, like you say, probably it was the stress of the day. She was overwhelmed. But it is important for mothers to also make the effort in asking your healthcare provider what you should expect. So I tell my mothers that that book you are holding is not... Go through it. Even if you can't read, you can see pictures. Right. Because we've made it so pictorial that danger signs in pregnancy, bleeding, a woman is vomiting, you will see it. Same with the feeding of newborns, same with vaccinations and other things. We've made it so pictorial. So if you see something and you are not seeing it in your... When you come, because mind you, we are also human beings and we can get overwhelmed. There's a story of a midwife who lost her child, I mean, her pregnancy, and was back in the labor for 2 weeks conducting delivery. Wow. Yes. You expect this midwife to give up her best, but unknown to you on the other side, you don't know what she's equally going through. And so sometimes I try to make room, because when they come like, and the nurses, the nurses are coming from the community. We churn them out with a certain attitude, and then they bring it to the ward. So please, take responsibility as a mother too. Because I have instances where some of my mothers, they prompt me and take care. So when I remember, I tell you ahead. Next month, when you come, I will do this for you.
Right.
So when you said that,
okay.
So I go through the books with my mothers like that.
Right.
And I've done this for like 17 years. So when you ask me and I'm even sleeping, I can tell you, okay, check this page for me. Check this page of this book. Do this, like page numbers, do this. Okay, take a picture of this place and send to me. I'm like, okay, have you seen this yourself? So this is what we do. And then we are all on the same. So sometimes I go into the future with them before they even come. That, okay, when you come, I'll do this. So if I forget, remind me.
Right.
It doesn't make you less of a nurse. At least it lessens your burden, because by the time they're coming, due to the emergency on your hand, a client comes and then they are due for vaccination. Another child has asthmatic attack. I have to nebulize. At a clinic, at a child welfare clinic. And some can get wheezing, like anything. Then what happens? Immunizations can wait by then.
Yes.
And then we nebulize this baby or save it. But communication. And, you know, sometimes if we don't have the answers, we tend to be a little bit angry just as a defense mechanism.
Right.
But it's not the best. I tell my mothers, please, I don't know this. I will ask and get back to you.
Yeah.
And Auntie Claudia, if she doesn't know, she will tell you. Because it's better than giving you a wrong information. And then we are all on the same page. I think it's better. Yes.
Right. So it's a shared responsibility, as you've heard. It is important that as a mother, you are curious enough to know what's happening with your child. And so you heard that you must be interested in the well-being of your child. Now let's do this little exercise, right? I call it truth or myth, right? Truth or myth. The first one is vaccines can make children autistic.
Yes and no. It's a no outright answer. But I'm saying yes because some vaccines have been, solvents in certain vaccines have been linked to with. Nonetheless, we are saying that autism has to do with more of a genetic malfunction. And so if you're not on the spectrum, if you don't have a trace
of autism,
it can't go and bring it.
Okay.
That's the literal. Someone said somewhere that, okay, I did family planning, IECD, and then I developed cervical cancer. But research shows that cervical cancer is caused by a virus. If you, and the IECD, when we place it in you, can last for 10 years. The virus, when you are introduced, can hide and persist between 10 to 15 years before they cause the disease. Now, later years, when you are found, it is very possible for you to say it's the IED that brought the cancer. But then, if the virus wasn't there, they wouldn't have caused anything. And so there should be something genetically before this thing can maybe hasten it or escalate it, but it doesn't cause it.
Autism.
Yes.
Right. Okay, number 2. Some vaccines contain toxic substances.
It is not true. What toxins here means, because it's either the weakened form or the dead form, and based on how strong it is or the way they elicit their immunity and how the reaction that goes on in the body, that's what makes them think that, okay, maybe it's poisonous. COVID vaccine came, just as you're saying, and then people were being hospitalized after everything. Once it's novel, mostly you get some reactions, and then we learn because it's a evidence-based practice which keeps going. We research into it, and then, okay, let's modify this, let's take this out, but they don't contain any.
Okay, so since you introduced the COVID vaccine conversation, some say vaccines contain certain chips or magnetic substances that allow you to be monitored or manipulated or controlled.
It is not true.
But even on the chip, I've always said, hey, but how do you see a chip in a vaccine?
You get it. And then if you're to monitor, looking at the number of people that took the vaccine, How do we monitor everybody? Who is going to do that job? Because you can do, how many people can you monitor at a time? Even on your CCTV, there's still a certain corners and still you can't get it. So it's not true.
These are all myths.
Yes.
Okay. So there's another one that suggests that natural immunity is better. So they say, for example, allow the child to be exposed to the virus on their own. Influenza. A lot of children have it, right? So the body itself will go through the cycle. The body will build the immunity. They may get another form of a flu virus. The body will build its own immunity. The people who believe that nature has its own way of taking care of things. So instead of allowing a certain produced vaccine to be put into your system, just allow the body to find its way around it.
But then we may not have the luxury because we wouldn't know who is going to survive it or who will not. Because if you are talking of, say, measles, a lot of babies were dying from measles. So why would you want the baby to be infected with measles before developing the immunity? If that child dies, where is the immunity? You understand? So it's better in some cases, like the passive one which mothers give to their babies. I mean, it's within, but even that when babies are born, we still introduce it to them for them to elicit their own immunity. And so you might want to wait, but you can't tell whether your child will survive it or not if they are infected with the disease.
So it's a probability game you don't want to play because you can't tell.
And the rate at which they will die from the disease is higher than survival. Okay. So why would we want to go on that tangent?
Right. Okay, so you have some education here on whether natural immunity is better. Well, that's a myth. Okay, now, there are those who also believe that, okay, you can give the vaccines, but for the first 1 year, that's too much for a child to handle. That's just too many vaccines for a child or a baby to handle.
But it's within those 1 year too that they are very fragile, they are prone, their immunity is very low. And so if we don't give them that, this active immunity from the vaccines we are giving, the chances of babies not surviving the disease when they are infected is high. And so the earlier, the better. Yes.
Okay. The next one is vaccines can give children the diseases we are trying to prevent. So there are those who say that I took a shot for influenza, but I'm beginning to feel the symptoms or show the symptoms, show the signs of influenza. So, cause 90, Anna.
So usually when babies or children are vaccinated, they can be exposed to the disease, but then they will, in some cases, they will suffer a very mild form of it, unlike if they hadn't been vaccinated at all. And then in some cases, they will not get the disease at all. Because I know adults who have come in to take chickenpox vaccine because they have never gotten chickenpox and they don't want to get it. Babies will always elicit certain kind of immunity from vaccinations. And what happens is, as I said, the body goes through certain kind of fights to give the immunity it desired. And as it is going through, you can fall sick. That's where the temperature comes in and all the adverse events. But it is the body's way of fighting with or generating the antibodies to build the immunity. And then in some cases, they will get it before they are exposed. And so, but then babies can be exposed to, so I say that you can be vaccinated but not get immunity. And you can get immunity but without vaccination. Because when we give the vaccination, there's a certain thing we're looking out for. It's a cold chain. When you break the chain, you alter the potency of the vaccine. And so you would have given the vaccine all right. But because you altered the potency of the vaccine, the child may not get the desired immunity. And though vaccinated, child can still get the disease.
How do we alter the potency of the vaccine?
Usually it's going to be done by the health worker. So how we handle the vaccine. That's how come it's always in a cold box. And some parts is done by the parents. when we immunize, it's within a certain temperature, +2 to +8. We say that, okay, when you notice a swelling, reddening or anything, put ice on it. Some will go and rub kerosene. Yes, some will rub shea butter. Some introduce hot items, and then you alter the potency of the vaccine. It's not just altering, you are going to cause a reaction at the injection site. Because they are not just, they massage the place and...
Kerosene, I have not heard that before.
Oh, they do a lot of things. In fact, they do a lot of things. Oh, na since we are na so na my mother says, I've heard a lot because I've worked in a rural area before. I've worked in the city. I've done every bit some, so I know of the things they can put on it.
Yeah.
Don't do this. That's what they are doing. And when they come, they won't tell you this is what I did.
Okay.
So they will make it look like, oh, adverse event following immunization. Then your head is like, because there are forms you need to fill. We need to trace that particular batch of vaccine. Yeah. Because if it's something that we have to recall that batch, and then all the FDA investigations, we want to, it's a whole lot of things. So when we give instructions that, okay, if you notice any reaction, let's say reddening or hardening of the, put ice on it. If it's not subsiding, report back. And then let us manage it for you. Because in some cases, it ends up in abscess. Well, we end up in the theater for incision and drainage. Because we have to incise or open up the site, take whatever passes there, drain it, and then when we could have, and they won't tell you this is what I did.
Please, the abscess, for those of you who are not too familiar
like with, it's a localized swelling of the injection site, yes, usually.
Right.
And the hardening from the 5-in-1, the one they take at 6 weeks, 10 weeks, and 14 weeks, is very common. Okay. But then all you need to do is to apply your cold compress, and then it suits or subsides.
Okay, we're left with the last point on the truth or myth. But since you've brought in the bit of the aftercare for immunized children, let me just find out from you. There are those who believe that before the child even takes the injection, there are some things you can give them, or there's a way you can prepare them so that the impact or the effect of the vaccine is not as serious.
So, if you are not sick, why are you taking medication? Okay. We give the pain medication to go and act on something that is happening in the child.
Okay.
Vaccine hasn't been introduced yet, and you've given your para or your pain antipyretic already. What is it acting on? Mind you, all the reactions babies get from vaccination, it is not every child.
You're right.
And so if you hurriedly go and give the para syrup and your child may not even react at all, what have you done? You've just given nothing, a medication which is not going to do anything in there, and it will become a tossing in them. Because if you're doing exclusive, I know of someone doing exclusive breastfeeding, and so when we even give the immunization, she won't give oral para, she will give put suppository. She doesn't want anything
to disrupt
like
her
exclusive, you know. So, and when we give the vaccine, the reaction doesn't occur instantly. Okay. And so there's still time that you can always give your pain medication after the antigen or vaccine has been introduced into the child, and never before.
So you recommend that we do it after, and that is even if the child develops the fever.
The fever doesn't come sudden. You feel some warmth, then you give. It goes to act on it as at the time it is happening. But if you give way, and some give hours before they come because they think that is what is going to prepare the system, it will wear off. And so by the time the pain is setting in and you are giving another one, it is now going to kick in because the first one had worn out earlier than you anticipated. And in some cases, we ask you to do tepid sponging, where you do lukewarm water. And mind you, you have to start from the feet.
Oh.
You don't start from the head.
Okay.
By the time it gets up here, it would have registered. But when you start from the head, the child can startle. And if there's high temperature, the child can convulse.
You're learning a lot here on Baby Doctor, and that's why this show has been put together. So for those of you who prefer to, as we say, sponge your child when they have a temperature, please always start from the feet. And what should the temperature of the water be?
Oh, it should be lukewarm. It shouldn't be that cold water.
Okay.
Because so when you put cold, when the child has temperature and you are applying cold water, it's like your car having overheated and you are pouring an iced.
Yeah.
So you will shut the system and it's not good.
Okay.
But when you bring in a lukewarm water, and you should always test it with the back of your hands, not in your palm.
Okay. Back.
Yes, so that you know that it's a bit, it's not too hot, it's not too cold.
Okay.
And it will still bring the temperature down.
Okay.
Because it goes like, it neutralizes the temperature that's already in the system.
So as the child's temperature drops, can I increase it from lukewarm to a little bit cooler and cooler?
We want a tepid water.
Okay.
And the tepid is lukewarm.
Okay.
Where it's not hot, not cold.
Okay. So to our last point on myth versus truth, better hygiene can prevent infections compared to vaccines. And so wash your hands, cover your nose, don't touch your face, all the things we had to do, or the protocols we had to observe in addition to getting a COVID vaccine. There are those who believe that. Why not just do those ones and avoid introducing certain elements into your body that they think you can do without?
Hygiene in general is the best thing. Nonetheless, you will be doing all that you have to do, as in observing all the personal and environmental hygiene. Is your neighbor doing same?
Okay.
And that it still puts you at a risk, because if you're doing it, I'm doing it, then it gives us a room not to worry. But just as you're doing it, someone is not. Look, the year COVID came and they were locked down, and we didn't record any cholera outbreak. Everybody was washing their hands. Everybody was. Now we've thrown all the cautions to the wind, and we're getting some outbreaks which we didn't record within the year that we're battling COVID, because hand sanitizers, hand washing, like everybody, we're wearing shaking hands, wearing the distancing. But now we've thrown all the caution, and we will not all act same at the same time.
Okay.
And so we protect ourselves the better, or we prevent ourselves the better. And prevention has always been better than cure. As we say, prevention is better than cure. And for me, prevention is my business, because I keep saying I may not live to survive it if I am infected. And so if there's a way I would prevent it, I wouldn't want to get it at all. Because being sick is not fun. It's never fun. And so, and especially when your child is sick, you are equally sick. Look, if your child needs to, it's not a pleasant thing to go through. Child has flu, can't breathe, it's so restless. And the caution here is that flus are viral infections. And so giving antibiotics is another thing, which is a no-no, because it's not a bacterial infection.
Please don't abuse the antibiotics. Well, I'll be back to wrap up the conversation, but here are your tips for today. Hope you learned something from them.
Tidbits on vaccination. Use an ice pack or cold compress when you notice swelling and redness at the site of injection. Remember to always make time for your next vaccination appointment. Ensure that your child is fully immunized. Remember, prevention, they say, is always better than cure.
And those were your tips for today. Quickly, in wrapping up the conversation, let me just say a very big thank you to Elimas Health. Elimas Health is located at 10A Volta Street at Airport Residential Area, very close to the National Service Secretariat. You can also call them on 024-807-5568, 024-807-5568. And Nanekia is with Elimas Health. She is a nurse and a midwife, and she'll just run you through the important vaccines they have available for your children, so you can make an informed decision on your child's health. Nanekia.
So aside all the government vaccines, which we do, we have vaccines for influenza, that's the flu, and then we have chickenpox, we have hepatitis A, we have cholera, we have typhoid fever vaccine, Yes, and then the meningitis vaccine, we have all the strain. We have the MMR, the one with the mumps, and then we have the Gardasil vaccine for HPV, even in grown or older children. And so anytime you can come in, then
all right, Daneke and her team will be looking out for you. Do give them a call. Do visit them at the airport residential area. Tell them you watch the baby doctor. And who knows, there'll be a nice package for you. Well, before I go, let me also say thank you so much to Azel Vogue for my dress. You can find Azel Vogue on Instagram, and you would find the name coming up on your screen shortly. Or you can contact Azel Vogue on 0244 155 266, 0244 155 266. And also a big thank you to Think Media, where you're bringing you the show from all your media work, creative, event organization, anything you need creative related, find Think Media and they will be able to sort you out. Well, it's time to say goodbye, but you know we are always interactive. Do find us on Facebook. Baby Doctor is the name, and my name is Bernice Abu-Baidoo Lansah, always serving you the best when it comes to the health of your baby and your child, because happy children always make happy homes. See you in our next episode. Take care.